All right, today we're diving into a case that really tests the limits of our justice system. I mean, you have this absolutely horrific crime, a guilty verdict that's crystal clear, and not one but two separate courts handing down a death sentence. But then, the Supreme Court steps in and just hits the brakes. So what's going on here? Let's break it down.
But before we get into the details, I have to give a serious content warning. The things we're going to discuss are incredibly disturbing, as they involve violence against a child, so please just be aware of that as we move forward. And this really gets to the heart of what we're talking about today. You have to ask, after two different courts looked at this truly brutal crime and both said death penalty, why would the Supreme Court come in and put a stop to it, even a temporary one? What happened?
Okay, so to really get a handle on the Supreme Court's decision, which, let's be honest, is pretty controversial, we've got to go back to the very beginning. We're starting in Bhopal, with the crime that kicked this whole thing off. So it's September 2024. A 5-year-old little girl in Bhopal just disappears. Her mother, obviously frantic, files a missing persons report. The search begins, and days later, police are drawn to a nearby apartment because of this awful smell. And inside, they find something truly horrifying. The little girl's body, hidden inside a water tank. The person living there, a man named Atul Nihale, was arrested right on the spot.
And look, there was absolutely no question about what took place. The evidence police gathered was overwhelming. DNA tests, everything. It all pointed to one person. It proved, without a shadow of a doubt, that Atul Nihale had raped and then murdered that 5-year-old child.
So, with the killer identified and the evidence just ironclad, the case heads to court. And at first, it really looked like justice was going to be swift and very, very clear.
So by March 2025, the trial court found Nihale guilty on all counts, rape and murder, and they handed down the harshest sentence possible, the death penalty. Now, there's a process for this. A verdict like that automatically gets sent up to the Madhya Pradesh High Court to be confirmed.
And the High Court? They didn't just rubber stamp it. They really doubled down on why this sentence was necessary. They pointed to the extreme brutality of what he did. And this part is so important. In India, the death penalty is only supposed to be for what the courts called the rarest of the rare cases. It's a very high bar. It means the crime was so depraved, so horrific, that just locking someone up for life isn't considered enough. So when the High Court used that phrase, they were making a very powerful statement.
So you have two courts, both in total agreement on the death penalty. The case now lands at the Supreme Court. And this, right here, is where everything takes a sharp, and for many, a deeply unsettling turn. This slide just lays it out so clearly, doesn't it? On one side, you've got the lower courts, totally unified. The death penalty is justified. But then, on the other side, you have the Supreme Court's order, a temporary stay on that very sentence. The immediate question is, why the disconnect?
And here's the court's reasoning. It's really important to understand that this stay from the Supreme Court, it's not them saying he's innocent. The guilty verdict stands. What they've done is hit pause for a very specific reason. They've ordered a deep dive, a full evaluation of the convict himself. They want to look at his psychological condition, his behavior in prison, his entire background. You know, this is all based on a really important legal idea in these kinds of cases. The court has to weigh not just the horror of the crime, but also any mitigating factors about the criminal. They're trying to build a complete picture before they make a decision that is quite literally irreversible. Now, this decision to pause and take a closer look has, according to the source material we're examining, sparked a really strong, really emotional reaction. So the perspective we're about to hear comes directly from that source. The source basically expresses complete shock at this turn of events. They describe the decision as so disturbing, and they put it like this: after such a brutal crime against a 5-year-old girl, you are not even giving such a man the death penalty. You can really feel the frustration and disbelief there. And this all builds to the final, really powerful question that our source leaves us with. It connects this one legal decision to a much bigger, much more personal fear for society. The source asks its audience, after this decision, would you want to raise your daughters in this country? And it goes on, what is the meaning of a developed India if women are not safe and cannot get justice? It's a question that forces you to think, doesn't it? It's about where legal procedure meets public trust, and it makes all of us reflect on what justice really looks like and how it should be delivered.